So welcome to Healthy Heads and Hampshire's video today. And today we're talking with Sophie from Acacia Dreams. Sophie came on to speak to us about disordered eating and about body image around that. And Acacia Dreams was set up to support people who have eating and or body image difficulties. And they've adapted to be able to work online at the moment, so please do get in contact with them if you think that they might be able to support you. I'm sure if they're not in a position to support you, then they can maybe help you find some help in the area that you're looking for. So thank you very much for watching, and please get in contact with Sophie or Acacia Dreams if you've got any questions. Thank you. So welcome, Sophie. And can you maybe start off by telling us a little bit about Acacia Dreams and what your group does?
Yeah, sure. So Acacia Dreams supports people with eating and body image difficulties. So we usually run a group session the first Wednesday of each month, but we've had to adapt and change things due to the current coronavirus situation. So now what we're doing is having 2-to-1 sessions that are around 30 minutes long each Wednesday, and people can book in slots at a required time. That's
okay. And so that's online working.
Yeah, it's online working. It just makes sure that everybody is safe and at the appropriate distances, and just, but people still feel that they can reach out and talk and discuss whatever's going on. It might not necessarily even be about eating and body image difficulties, but due to the way that things are going at the moment, it can just be nice to reach out and talk to people about things.
Yeah. And what is it that kind of got you interested in the field that you work in?
So it stems mainly from personal experience. So when I was an adolescent, I had quite a few issues with my body and quite a few issues with eating, to be fair. And throughout my whole journey, I went from certain behaviors, like one behavior to another behavior that fitted into different kind of categories. I struggled to get noticed by health professionals. I struggled to go to the doctors, and when I did go to the doctors, they might not have even recognized what I was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I did get help, and it was a long journey because I was quite resistant, reluctant, and other people were trying to have their own influence on my decision.
Mm-hmm.
And it finally got to a point where I wanted to make the change and I wanted to get better and recover. And that, though, wasn't easy, and it's not kind of like the idealized version of recovery where it's just, I'm on the path to recovery and just taking it step all the way up to recovery, as if it's like this one linear direction.
Mm-hmm.
It was very much up and down, but I got there, and the support of the people around me, now that I was more willing to accept it, was really helpful. And someone that really helped me on my journey was Charlie, who works with me on Acacia Dreams. And it was that friendship and that talking, because she kind of understood a lot of my thoughts and feelings. She was going through a similar experience, yet obviously different because it was her own. We could relate to each other, and we could talk about things that other people didn't necessarily get or understand. And it was that support that helped complement what I was going through in terms of the professional treatment that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept on saying things like, I really wish that there was people out there that was like our friendship that could help us to talk, and really wish that we could have this, so we could sit down, have a cup of tea, and just
feel heard, I guess.
Yeah, feel really heard. Just listen to, because a lot of the times it's, if you're battling to try and get a diagnosis, or you're battling to try and get treatment, there's a lot of thought processes in your head when people are, maybe shutting doors on you, that maybe I'm just blowing this all out of proportion, or that I'm not sick enough, or I don't deserve that help. And that's really damaging.
Mm-hmm.
It's really damaging to people to have that thoughts and feelings and be that, you know, down on themselves, when the actual thing in general is that if it's really bothering you, you should be allowed to be, you're allowed to have help, and you're allowed to be listened to, and you deserve to be heard.
So it might be good actually for people that are watching to know whereabouts it is you're based. I'm up in North Hampshire, but where is it that people can access your groups when they're running?
We're running them virtually with me and Charlie and a member who can join us at the kind of designated time. But when we get back to normal, our regular kind of sessions that are the first of every month would be held in Southampton in an area called St Denny's. And we're kind of toying with what happens after coronavirus at the moment. We know that we will be going back there if everything stays the same with the community centre, but also looking at how the impact that the kind of virtual relationship has been, and seeing whether we can implement that going forwards as well. So it's all kind of all flexible and just trying to think it all through at the moment.
So, Sophie, it might be helpful maybe if you explained a little bit more about, we're kind of talking today, I guess, about disordered eating and people who have issues around their bodies and around that aspect. So could you maybe explain a little bit more about what we mean by that?
Yeah, so it's a good point. A lot of people, when they think of a support group for eating disorders, or what we do is eating difficulties and body image difficulties, which covers disordered eating. Mm-hmm. They just think of the typical kind of anorexia, bulimia, and now generally considered binge eating as well. Like those are the ones that kind of come up most commonly. But disordered eating is any kind of eating behavior that strays away from healthy relationships with food. So it could be things like, it could be dieting, for example, but not the kind of dieting that's kind of like health controlled by a professional, like a dietitian and things like that, but like crash dieting, like constantly looping through crash dieting. It could also, you know, have associations with like thoughts and feelings around food. So how do you feel after eating? Is it guilt or shame and all of those other things? Mm. It really kind of encompasses a really broad spectrum, and it's just about your relationship with your food, the food and body image. Mm. It's not about a diagnostic criteria necessarily, but recognizing the disordered eating. We're hearing about it more actually. I think Taylor Swift in her recent documentary talked about disordered eating, and didn't necessarily put a label to it. And within eating disorders in general, like the actual diagnostic criteria for eating disorder, there is a wide range of like disorders that can be named that people don't know about. Mm. Things like diabulimia, and what's not actually considered a diagnostic criteria as well, but very common on the internet and very well known, things like orthorexia, which is more of a relationship with healthy food, like, but going beyond the normal kind of healthy food that we kind of think of, but it's like it becomes an obsession. Mm-hmm. And things like anorexia athletica, where it's an obsession with exercise. And I know I'm overgeneralizing right now, but there is a lot there. It's we have a really helpful image on our website, which kind of spans the whole kind of, I like to refer to it as more of like a spectrum, and people can kind of move in and out of different like areas of it, and just kind of, you can go from kind of a normal healthy relationship with food and body image and move further away from that to disordered eating. And then if I explain disordered eating as kind of like elements of like diagnostic criteria to some degree of an eating disorder, rather than it all adding up to a specific category. So
yeah, so it's this, I guess it's this, it's a very, very individual experiences of people, and that whereas for a GP there's an element of them having to follow a tick box of criteria meeting. Actually, what you're talking about is people being able to express what is happening for them as a person, separate from titles and names, and not necessarily needing to know what is going on for them, but needing to know that something is happening that doesn't feel okay. So, Sophie, what personal benefits do you think you found from helping to run Acacia Dreams?
I think it's a tough question. I think it's, without being, I don't want to be offensive in any way, but I think it's just shown resilience. I think I've found that I have a lot more resilience within me. Life isn't easy, even as someone that is in recovery, and I've had my own issues, and being able to see changes in other people, and the drive to keep on being out there and making sure that people are heard. I think that is an element that has come to light, is that I have a lot of resilience, but also just how amazing some people can be. They can be absolutely incredible.
I guess there's something about seeing that strength and resilience in others, which I'm always incredibly. It also invigorates me when I see people's ability to make changes and to be strong when they're under incredibly difficult situations. That definitely helps to invigorate my resilience and as well.
Yeah, I think you're just championing behind them, just like kind of. Yeah, it can be such a, I mean, obviously people are struggling, but then you kind of, even if they don't see it, you kind of see this kind of fight within them somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's also, it I can kind of, it helps me when I'm in a difficult place as well, because I can kind of see, well, there must be a fight within me somewhere, just as much as I've seen it with other people. It's brilliant. It's really hard, that question, because it talks about the personal benefits, and you're not really consciously thinking about the personal benefits to it.
Yeah. It's a tricky one to think about, but I think it's quite interesting as for many people, I think, in the roles that they do and the jobs that they do, is to understand what's part of what makes you want to do that job. And for me, it's not a personal gains thing, but I definitely recognise that it reinvigorates me when I see the work that people are doing on themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Just seeing differences in people. It's nice, because at times we've been told that I'm so glad that you're here, and our ethos of being there for people, and our ethos of just being that person, and that they can actually talk about anything. I mean, I think someone even said this is the nicest conversation I've ever had about this topic. And it's like, that in itself, just that line to me was just like incredible, because it's a difficult subject to talk about, and to be able to have that environment for them is just amazing, because it's how it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it helps. I think knowing that we've helped navigate and create a place where people can talk openly, it breaks down some of those issues with talking about it with people.
Mm-hmm. Some of the stigma that's attached.
Yeah.
So I guess you've spoken a little bit about how you can see the benefit to people that are taking your support, and it certainly sounds like they're finding lots of ways to make use of that time and that space to think and talk about what's happening for them. So do you think there's something that particularly makes your service unique compared to maybe other services that are available for people?
I think we've heard quite a few times that when the support group thing comes up in people's minds, like that kind of idea of a support group, they kind of have an idea of like people standing up, talking, saying what they have, who they are, and giving like that brief kind of like that stereotypical thing that you see in the movies with Alcoholics Anonymous. And once they've come to us, they've kind of said, it's not like what I expected at all, because you come in, at least in our general monthly sessions instead of the kind of virtual ones, and we try and make it as homely as possible. But we like have like a tablecloth out, we'll have drinks available, so it will be like tea, coffee, hot drinks, chamomile, soya. We have cushions and pillows, weighted blanket. We have like a chill out space if you can't take it, that if you feel like you're too overwhelmed in that situation, you kind of vote with your feet. So you can move away, get away, calm down, and that's okay. There's no pressure in the environment at all, and we try and make it as welcoming as possible, because as I said earlier, it's about not necessarily just friendship, but having like a friendly voice and friendly people around you, and not making it too clinical. So it's that in between stage where you have your friends and you have like a doctor or a psychiatrist or a clinical setting, and we kind of, I feel like we're kind of hitting that sweet spot of the middle ground. And I think that makes us a bit different. I mean, we try and be as inclusive as possible. There's no judgment. And I think we also get messages saying, I don't have a diagnosis. My diagnosis is this. My gender's this, or any of the other kind of defining features that you might have about who you are as a person. And what's appended to that is it okay if I come? And it's all okay to come. Like, you can reach out to us and talk to us, and you can come to the groups. It doesn't matter what background you have, who you are as a person, what difficulties you're facing. If what we're saying, or on the website, or what I'm saying to you right now is resonating with you, that's enough. There is no kind of prerequisite clinical diagnostic criteria for people to come. It's just open, and I think that makes us a bit unique.
Yeah, and I can hear that giving people choices of settings to try and find the ones that actually work and the ones that help them. You know, you've talked about this kind of range of clinical type settings and professionals, which obviously have a place and are very important. And then these people feeling like they have a choice, and that there are options open for them. And I can hear the kind of welcomeness and the warmth in the environment that you guys have created for people to join. So, Sophie, have you got people, kind of mental health heroes, or people you found have really influenced you over the years?
I think so, yeah. I mean, at different points in my life, I've had different heroes, just like anybody else in terms of mental health. I mean, when I was younger, I'll be looking at like the stories behind like people's recovery on the Beat website. Nowadays, like looking at different campaigners. I mean, Jamila Jamil who had issues with body image and eating difficulties. She set up a campaign called, which is #IWeigh, and it's about people being more than what a number says on a scale. And I think that's really important, and it does go along with kind of our ethos of, you know, it may seem like a big thing to people and a really important thing to people, but you are more than that, and you're more than welcome, no matter, again, who you are, what kind of situation you're in, to be able to access help and support.
So, Sophie, do you have any kind of suggestions of ways that people that are at home and that are struggling at the moment can start to support themselves, or recommendations of ways that they can put things in place?
I think it's quite a vast topic, so to kind of narrow it down to a specific kind of advice or tip is really quite difficult. I think if people are kind of trying to stick to a routine and they have people around them, I think trying as much as possible to keep that communication open, being able to talk about the difficulties, and that is so much easier said than done, but trying to find ways to communicate that, and whatever way works for you, whether it's, you know, I mean, in our group we have like emotion cards. So green means that I'm here, I'm ready, I'm present, I can cope with everything, and we kind of loosely put words to the colors because it will mean slightly different things to different people, but yellow orange kind of means, you know, I kind of need to take it a little bit easier. I might be struggling with a few things right now, but it's kind of in between. And purple just means like I need space, I need to chill out, I need to, you know, don't overwhelm me right now. I'm not going to be able to, you know, take questions or take input from you, and it'll be only I'll participate with you, but try not to overwhelm me, kind of thing. And I think it's worked really well in terms of communication. And I think between observing when Charlie and I are the kind of listeners, I mean, everyone in the group is listeners and we kind of all are equal, but from people walking into the room and choosing that kind of emotion card, we can kind of get an instant kind of feel of what someone's feeling without them actually having to express it verbally, which can be so difficult. So even if it's something like that, or a scale of 1 to 10 or whatever feels natural, but being able to communicate with other people about that space that you're in, it can really help connect people. And just being kind. I know it's really tough when you're struggling to be kind to yourself, but talk to yourself as if it were your best friend. We are our own worst critic, and that is so overplayed and so cliche. I'm sorry, but we are our own worst critic, and some of the things that I used to say to myself, I wouldn't dream of saying to anybody else. It was only about, I could only relate it to me. And being able to kind of reflect and think, would I ever say that to anybody else? If not, what would I be saying instead? I think those are some of the tools that have helped me. But obviously it's really just going to depend on your situation, and obviously it's not a catch-all.
No, but I definitely think there's kind of two themes I took from that, which is one of which is finding different ways to communicate if communicating isn't working in the format at the time, and I guess that takes both of the individuals finding what works for them, the person who's trying to listen and the person that's trying to communicate what's happening. And interestingly, this theme of kindness seems to come up a lot when I'm talking to people. This being kind to others and being kind to ourselves. So it's something that has been touched on in another video. Is that idea of it being very downplayed, the importance of it. And I can, yeah, definitely hear this idea that if we can give that kindness to others, which I see people doing all of the time in different ways, then at times we need to be able to turn it around and actually be really kind to ourselves. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Sophie, what kind of other services are there out there that you think might be good for people to look up when we're talking about choice and people having some control over where they seek their support from? What other services are there out there that perhaps you maybe learned from, or that you might suggest that people could do a bit of research themselves about to see if they're suitable?
Services, there is a lot out there, and it depends on what your situation is. I mean, with eating and body image difficulties, it rarely occurs in a vacuum. So if there's like subcategories that may fit into, I mean, we have a list of resources that we're currently compiling about different support available to people. It depends if you have like addiction and whatnot. I think Solent Mind is a really good one to reach out to. I know that people have benefited from Solent Mind. It's just overarching.
Mm-hmm.
I previously mentioned Beat.
Mm-hmm.
They are very good. They have online support and phone support as well. And they have different categories if you are under 18 or over 18. I forgot to mention that we're a service for 18 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Just so that
that's good to know.
We can keep a conversation with kind of more adult themes, and it just wouldn't be appropriate having like
under 18.
Under 18s. But there is another support group that runs in Winchester. The name is not coming to me right now off the top of my head, but I can send you
a link in with
the video
as well.
I was going to send I'll send you a link.
Yeah.
And
so Mind, Solent and Beat, and then there's a space in Winchester that perhaps it might be good for people to research, and we can put a link to that alongside the video.
Yeah, and then I think locally as well, if there's lots of support at universities. And what I would say on that is that when I was at university, I had to take time out and back again, and that the support team at my university were really good. I was able to access the disability support for mental health, and some of the provisions that they put in place for me were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And keeping that line of communication. And to be honest, the word disability at that point in my life was really difficult for me to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so worth it. They helped. It really helped me be able to be the best that I could be.
Mm-hmm. So what's the best way for people to kind of get in contact and start a communication with you? How's the best way that they can find you?
So again, it comes down to choices. I mean, we have people contact us through Instagram and Facebook, and we have our website, which is www.acaciadreams.co.uk. That has a contact form built in, and it also has the Facebook Messenger built in. So you can contact us either way, and we'll get back to people as soon as we can. I mean, we have also our email address is hello@acaciadreams.co.uk.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it's perfectly acceptable. We will see it, and anyway.
And if someone's searching for you, it might be helpful perhaps to spell Acacia for them, because personally I can be pretty bad at getting the right spelling for things.
Yeah, in hindsight, it is kind of like a alternating thing that's quite difficult. So it's ACACIA, and then the word dreams.
Perfect. Thank you.
No worries.
So, Sophie, thank you so much today for talking to us. And I appreciate such a big subject matter to be able to talk about in such a short video. So, I'd encourage people if they have questions, even if they're just not sure really if this is something that they're having trouble with, to reach out, to get in contact with Acacia Dreams, because at the very least you can have contact with someone and talk this through a little bit and try and make some sense of it. But thank you so much for talking to us today.
No worries, we're welcome. Thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely.